Next up, events. So React Testing Library comes with a special fire event method that we can use to mimic user interactions, and we can fire different types of events or mimic different events, including clicks, submits, inputs, and there are many others. So if you go to the doc page, docs for testing library under firing events, so there is a single fire event method that we can call. We actually call it with parentheses and all of that. Like any other method, we specify a node and the event type. There are also these convenience methods, which is what I like to use. Fire event.click, fire event.change, .submit, .key down. And you can click here. It's kind of annoying that this is split up, but if you click here, you'll see the entire list of events. It's not really much. It's not quite documentation, but it's the source code. You can see the actual event methods, the shortcuts that we have. So there's a lot of them, tons. So you could use one generic fire event method and then pass into that the event type, or you can call fire event dot and then click fire event dot whatever, and then you can specify the element that you are clicking on or the input that you are typing in, where the event should fire on, what the actual origin or what the element should be that triggers it. So it's pretty straightforward as far as firing a click or a submit or an input. Let's go back to our toggler component, which remember is just a button and an H1. When you click the button, this text, the H1, will hide or it will show. It toggles back and forth based off of this piece of state is showing. It starts as true. Every time you click, this on click is just going to set is showing to be the opposite. True to false, false to true. So we toggle what we see here. All right, pretty simple. So what I'm going to do is write a test to see that it should, it should toggle. Sure, it should toggle. So we're going to start by rendering our toggler. We're going to find the heading, which we've already done. It has the text of hello world, get by text. We can expect it to have the class. We can expect it to be in the document. Then we're going to click the button. So how do we get that button? We can do a get by text. What is the text on the button? It is toggle. So let's do get by text. That's fine. We could use some other way of selecting it, but get by text works. So get by text, and then we want toggle. And I could save that to a variable const button, or I can just use it right here. Fire event, which is something I do need to import by name from React Testing Library. So fire event, just like render. Fire event.click, and then this is what I want to click. Again, you can use a variable, but if we're not reusing that button ever, this is fine. Actually, I think I am going to reuse the button though and test another click afterwards, but let's just see if this works. Fire event.click, get by text toggle. So now we're going to expect the heading not to be in the document. So first, we'll expect it to be there. Then we fire the event. Then we expect it not to be in the document. Okay, well, let's see what happens. We're now clicking that button that has the text of toggle. Let's run the test. Fingers crossed. And it looks good. We're passing. Always good. All right, hit Q to get out of there. So that's one example. There's a lot more that we can do with events. Once we talk about forms, we can test forms and input events and submit events. But for now, we'll really just worry about clicks. So let's go back to our counter component. And this counter component is pretty straightforward. There's a button you click and it increments the count, and that count is updated. It's displayed right here. It's going to start at 0. So we could write a test for this component to see that when you click, you are actually updating, or the text is updating in the DOM. So we would start with rendering counter. We'd get the H2 or whatever the element is by text. Then we can click the button and check to see that 1 is now included in the text content of the H2, or 2 is included, or 3, or whatever the number is. So we could try doing this. We'll go over to our counter.test. I'm going to import fire event. And then let's go with test button clicks. Add our callback in, and I'll get rid of that matcher for now. So in here, we need to select that text that we want to watch. We want to find this H2 and be able to check before and after we click. So we'll select using current count set to 0, which is the initial value. So I'll just do a get by text. So I need to render my component, which is counter, and then I will destructure from that, get by text, and then I'm going to try and find something with that, get by text, and then I want this right here, current count. However, this is going to be replaced with 0, and that should be, hopefully there's only one of those. It should return to us some element, we'll call it H2. Then we can click the button. So let's select the button using the same get by text. And what text do we have on that button? We have add. So let's go with add, just like that. And then fire event dot click the button. And now we can start writing our expectations. We're going to expect H2 dot, and there's a matcher we can use called to have text content. And this is a way of checking not the entire string, but just to see, does it contain the number 1, for example. You can read more about it here. To have text content, it's part of jest DOM. We can check to see whether a given element has text content or not. It performs a partial case-sensitive match. So it's not an exact match where it must only have the text content of 1. It's checking to see if 1 is in the text somewhere. All right, so we run our tests and hold our breath, and it passes. Now that's not all that conclusive, because it could have gone up to 10, or we could have just added 1. Well, this isn't where it would happen, but you can imagine we're just testing to see if there is a 1 in there. So we could also write and expect H2 not to have text content of 0. So we know for sure it wasn't just appended or something like that. Run my tests again. We're still passing. So that's how you fire a click event. You select the thing that you want to click on, fire event.click. You also have that other option I showed you, fire event, and then you pass in the button and then the event type, which would be click. But most, at least I prefer, I can't speak for everyone, I prefer to use these little shortcut methods. It just keeps your code cleaner. So now we know how to test pretty much all of the basic pieces using React Testing Library and Jest DOM, which are all set up for us thanks to Create React App. We can test what text is being displayed, what elements are on the screen or in the document versus not in the document, showing and hiding stuff. We can test for classes. There are a whole bunch of other things. You can test for styles, actually. So to have style, where you can check literally, does this have a red background color or a purple border? You can test to see what's in a form, what element has been focused on, to have different attributes. So we have the basic framework in place to now go and write more complex tests for more complicated applications. But it's the same pattern. We're going to use these query methods that we get back on the object that render returns. So get by text, query by text, get by placeholder text, get by label text, etc., etc. We use those to find elements, and then we can fire events on those elements, or we can pass those elements in to an expect, and then use custom JS DOM matchers. They're not really custom, but they are add-on matchers that come with JS DOM. And that's it for now. Next, we're going to talk about debugging tests, and then we're going to be done with testing React. You'll keep writing a lot of tests, but we're going to move on to talk more about React State and fancier React concepts.